There's been a lot of awesome watches arriving in the last few weeks, so many it's hard to keep up. So I've taken the pick of the litter and laid them all out for you so you can get up to speed with the latest creations looking to break up your marriage. There's affordable stuff, there's zany stuff, and then there's the downright bizarre. Stick around for the last one or I'll strangle a goose. Just when you thought Tissot couldn't make the PRX any cooler, they go ahead and whip out one in full carbon fibre. It's basically a Porsche Carrera GT for the wrist. This isn't any old carbon fibre though, this is forged carbon fibre. The difference? Think of a bowl of shreddies before and after the milk. Instead of laid out in neat lines like at the beginning of Scarface, it's all smushed together like at the end of Scarface. Forged carbon fibre is produced by compressing chopped carbon fibres really hard, resulting in a marble-like textured block that can be machined into complex shapes like a watch case. The first watch in forged carbon fibre was made by Audemars Piguet to celebrate its then partnership with America's Cup yacht team Alinghi. Whilst many people think that forged carbon fibre is the parasitic twin to the classic weave, it actually outperforms it in a number of scenarios, with a higher strength to weight ratio, greater stiffness and lower thermal expansion, perfect for the Monday commute on a cold November morning. It's a bit pricier than the standard PRX at £960 however, but it houses the Powermatic 80 and may or may not contain the ghost of Paul Walker. The dive watch market today is so flooded there's a bunch of celebrities in LA writing a charity song about it. It seems we're more likely to see Supreme branded anal beads than we are an original dive watch concept, and yet Yema have given it their best shot. And you know what? Their best shot ain't no Thomas Crooks. From the front, the Superman Skin Diver Slim. Let's just gloss over the personal massager-inspired naming convention for now. Looks in silhouette much like any other diver, and the details don't stray too far from that sentiment either. It's a 39mm case in steel with an external bezel and a suitably 60s dial aesthetic that draws from the Yemas of yore. Where things get interesting is when you look again, because some of those standard details aren't quite as standard as they first appear. The bezel isn't aluminium or ceramic, as is so often seen these days. It's set beneath a layer of sapphire. The numbers on the dial are printed straight onto the big luminescent markers, and the bracelet is made from Mark Zuckerberg's skin. But the biggest whoa mama moment is on, as C-types say, the flip side. This 60s inspired diver gets, of all things, a very modern looking micro rotor movement. Dressed all in black with swooping bridges vajazzled with gleaming rubies, it keeps 70 hours of power reserve topped up through gravity's intimate relationship with the tiny steel micro-rotor. It's all made by Yema and costs a surprisingly affordable £1,699. I'm obsessively in love with any watch brand that I am incapable of pronouncing properly, and that's why I've been following the Beda'a Eclipse home and rummaging through its bins. This is a simple three-hander made so much more through the use of discs, pointers and a line, in an execution that feels discouragingly expensive. Hours are viewed through a sapphire porthole on the northern side of the dial's eclipse, with minutes orbiting around the skinny perimeter left behind. And what of the seconds? There's 10, count them, 10, whizzing through the hour window, making this watch ideally suited to that NASA person who counts down to launch. A Sellita SW300 keeps the dainty 37mm case just 8mm tall, avoiding the fate that befalls many a watch trying to pass itself off as more expensive than it is, a case so thick it's got Emily Ratajkowski telling all. No, this skinny fella, even with the sapphire caseback revealing the bright blue rotor weight, is keeping things compact. Equally compact is the price, just £1,800 for this Swiss-made pseudo-complication, which is especially impressive given the extra attention spent finishing the 904L steel case, which has wide Omega-style bevels and a concave bezel, and is held in place with an ostrich leather strap. Included with the watch is a small moon, but as old Ben Kenobi warned, that's no moon. Instead of a planet-killing death station, however, this duplicitous satellite doubles up as the watch's home when you're not wearing it. Set lightsabers to stun. One of the most important factors that often goes unconsidered in the creation of a dive watch is the ability to read it in the dark. This isn't often an issue for me because when I'm sat in the dark my vision is usually blurred with tears anyway. However, Christopher Ward has stepped up its game for a glow up to rival Neville Longbottom's. This is the C60 Trident Lumière, and it's the latest addition to an ever-growing C60 collection that's becoming harder to navigate than an IKEA theme park. What makes the Lumière stand out is a bright glow emanating from its choice of blue, black and orange dials, courtesy of a switch-up of its hands and markers. The other C60s in the range make do with the tried-and-tested arrangement of a dollop of lume inside a metal container, where the Lumière does away with the container altogether and replaces it with a solid lump of lume. This was first seen, at least as far as I'm aware, on the Tudor Black Bay Pro and H. Moser & Company Pioneer cylindrical tourbillon skeleton in 2022, and because it incorporates more of the light-absorbing material, it glows brighter for longer. Credit does not go to the miracle of Daz detergent, however, but Globalite XP, a product of the same people who make the ubiquitous superluminova luminous paint used across the industry. It's a fusion of ceramic and witchcraft to create three-dimensional lume elements that aren't just used in the Lumière for the markers, but the hands as well. It's all contained within a slender 41mm titanium case and will set you back £1,985. If the Germanic stylings of husband and wife duo Kudoke have got your frankfurter sizzling, but the chunky price tag makes your wiener schnitzel, then budget collab masters Louis Erard are here to make your watchmaking dreams come true. Known for bringing the out-of-reach echelons of high horology down to a more affordable price point, Louis Erard's Le Régulateur, in partnership with KadoK, continues that trend with the incredible dial stylings of the award-winning watchmaker. A frosted base is set with radially brushed rings that outline the dials, with the hour indicator in particular receiving a Clou de Paris pattern, which is as spiky and abrasive as the Parisians it's named after. Twin nameplates straddle left and right, contrasted by a choice of blue, green, purple or mother-of-pearl backdrop. Blued steel hands abound, with the hours arranged as the infinity pattern favoured by KadoK, as a reminder that, with the cost of living the way it is, they'll need to be making watches forever. From Louis Erard's side comes the choice of a Sellita SW266, a regulator caliber that splits hours, minutes and seconds into separate subdials. This was favoured by chronometer clocks in Switzerland's observatories, as it made reading the time accurately easier. The 42mm case in steel rounds out the rest of the watch, which comes in at a third the price of a full-blown KadoK for around £3,600. International watch trolls Grand Seiko have undone almost a decade's work by reversing its decision to brand Grand Seiko watches exclusively as Grand Seiko, with a 45GS reedition that reverts back to simply Seiko. Based on the 1968 original that launched the hand-wound high-beat caliber into Grand Seiko's range, this new example, the SLG W005, honours that history by housing the recently released caliber 9SA4 within the familiar case. The Gothic Grand Seiko logo is relegated to the lower half of the dial, reunited with the high-beat references and the lightning bolt logo unique to the Danish Seikosha factory where the watch was originally made. Being a Grand Seiko, the level of execution is so high it would impress the state of Texas, with hands and markers sharper than Sherlock's kitchen knife. The addition of the 9SA4 brings it into modernity, providing 80 hours of power reserve in a total package just 38.8mm across and 10.4mm thick. As a limited edition, there are only 1,200 pieces in steel and 200 in gold, with prices starting at £8,950. Since there hasn't been a bigger backpedal since the Watergate scandal, perhaps this piece should be called the Nixon. Two guys goading each other on usually leads to the hospital, but in the case of former Erlangen-Zoner watchmakers Johannes Kallinich and Thibaut Claeys, the net result instead was the Einser Zentralsekund, which in English translates to "you can't have one, they're all sold out already." The challenge set by the two lads was to create the most impressive three-hander ever made, and by golly did they give it a fair old go. Whilst their focus was primarily on the oily bits in back, the case and dial are equally impressive, with the standard version featuring a guilloche center section, and the Founder Edition a diagram of how my wife uses toilet roll. On the case side is the first glimpse into the mighty movement, offering a side-on view of not just the screwed balance, but the 45-hour power reserve as well. There's no doubt this is one of those watches you'd rather slip on like your only set of underwear on day 2 of a long weekend. That is to say, inside out. It's so well decorated even the polishing has polishing. It's the kind of finish Stephen King wishes he could master. In terms of good old German efficiency, the movement is, well, dog shit, containing more parts than the Fast and Furious series. However, the increase in pieces moving power from one place to the next only means more of that glorious finishing. It would take a lifetime just to appreciate it, which is just as well, because it'll take not far off that to save the £22,000 needed to purchase it. Malaysian-based Ming has built a reputation for finding new and unusual ways to celebrate the keeping of time, and the 2001 Series 3 has once again managed to bring something new to the watchmaker's bench. The 2001, now in its 3rd iteration, has been home to Agenhor's incredible Agengraph caliber since 2020's Piece Unique S1 concept, with each iteration dialing up the crazy just a little bit. For the Series 3, we're at the underwear on the head and 2 pencils up the nose level of insanity, with a glass dial pierced with 600 radially symmetric holes, each one filled with luminous paint. The resulting effect is one of an interstellar plug hole. Forget beer goggles. This is an LSD kaleidoscope. If that wasn't bad enough, the only way to apply the luminous paint to the holes in the glass dial is one, by hand, using a syringe. Forget Chinese water torture. This is an activity so tedious and repetitive, it's enough to send anyone over the edge. So too is the price of £40,000. Wibble. If you like your watches like you like your comic book villains, the once reserved Chronoswiss is here to take your money with the open gear flying tourbillon Seiko. Continuing the theme of madness, but here with the addition of cartoonish ill intent, the tourbillon Seiko is the ideal accompaniment for anyone looking to go toe to toe with a local billionaire's alter ego. When not spiking the water supply with hallucinogens or making it rain shards of glass, the wearer of this watch will be able to enjoy a wild combination of blues, purples, greens and orange that should be quite in keeping with the rest of their wardrobe. The watch is based around the caliber C303, developed in collaboration with movement masters La Joux-Perret, the heart of which is a 60-second tourbillon as twisted as the rest of the ensemble. The regulator style splits hours, minutes and seconds, with the green backdrop hand guilloched into a venom-like rictus grin. If you feel the colour palette is more Jared Leto than Heath Ledger, you'll be pleased to know the open gear flying tourbillon exists in a more monochromatic arrangement as well. Some say if you shine the silhouette of a carousel into the nighttime city sky, it'll come swooping down to your aid, with or without nipples. If you like your watches like Ned Flanders likes his skiing attire, then you'll love the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra Ultralight, now available in a special edition colour combo to celebrate Armand Duplantis' short-lived record-breaking pole vault. He's since broken it again, mere weeks later, making the Olympic effort as lasting as the interest in the watch itself. Already a revival of a piece from 2019, the Duplantis edition takes the basic formula in titanium and adds the colours of the Swedish flag to celebrate the American success in circumnavigating the United States' disinterest in athletics. Thanks to a Swedish mother and Sweden's flexible approach to nationality, this latest ultralight is resplendent in a fetching blue and yellow. To ensure the watch doesn't hinder Duplantis' efforts, it boasts a total weight of just 57 grams, thanks to the use of gamma titanium, an alloy of titanium and aluminium that is even lighter than already very light titanium. The real showstopper of the piece is its caliber 8928 tie, which, as the name suggests, is also made from titanium. Due to the difficulty in machining titanium, a fully titanium movement is a rare and unusual thing, which is in no small part why the watch is priced at £48,400. This is why Omega chose to partner with someone who also doesn't understand the concept of too high. And of course, since Omega recently invested in a laser lathe to make the Apollo 8 Saturn V secondhand, it had to fit the Duplantis edition with a pole vault centre seconds too. Broadly speaking, resonance is a principle built around the idea of matching. When two people click, they resonate with one another. When the vibrations of a guitar string match the natural frequency of the guitar's body and even the string itself, that's resonance in action, and is responsible for the tone of that guitar. The transference of my neighbour's drum and bass through the wall at 2 AM will likely resonate in a big bag of dog shit through their letterbox. Then there's sympathetic resonance, two objects that share a natural frequency, such that the vibrations in one can be transferred to the other, like a pair of tuning forks. Hit one, put it near the other, and they both hum, just like my next door neighbour's letterbox after another 2 AM drum and bass session. This is something clockmaker Christian Huygens noticed when he hung two pendulum clocks side by side. Even when the pendulums were deliberately set out of sync, they would eventually align and stay that way. This is because of the ancient power of aliens, and it's that same power that Armin Strom has harnessed in the dual-time resonance. A child of the brand's resonance series, it carries through the twin balance wheels sat beside each other that provide an average accuracy of both through resonance. What's especially clever is how a clutch spring has been used to speed up the process. Back in Huygens' day, he had time to be sat around watching pendulums sync up. What else was he going to do? Today we've got Netflix, so we want our resonance to act a bit more sharpish. By conjoining the mounting point of each balance spring to a shared flexible component, the two can fall into harmony before the opening credits are through. New for the dual-time resonance is both a smaller 39mm case and the addition of a dual-time function, where the output of each balance can be used to set a different time. See how your wallet resonates to the price of just over £100,000. If you're passionate and you like fruit, then boy do I have the watch duo for you. Welcome to the unexpected collaboration between fruity, affordable watch brand Studio Underdog and the cool king of the independents, Moser & Company, for a two-part epic that's sweeter than a bubblegum macchiato. On the one wrist, you have the first entry into the 03 series for Studio Underdog, which sees the Seagull caliber from the 01 series, which will remain alongside, replaced with a Swiss-made monopusher. And on the other, you have a stainless steel perpetual calendar concept with an enamel dial and 168 hours of power reserve. What you'll notice about both is the passion fruit themed colour palette shared between the two, a vibrant purple paired with a gradated golden yellow, sprinkled with just a hint of green if you look real close. That's Studio Underdog's contribution, with Moser's being the complete absence of any branding whatsoever. Moser's CEO Edouard Meylan is a man of few words, and apparently so are his dials. The duo comes as a pair and is limited to just 100 sets for around £53,000 each, and whilst there are naturally some Studio Underdog fans pining after the more affordable edition, it was also revealed that there's something else coming from Studio Underdog soon that should keep his grassroots fans very happy indeed. Watch wizard extraordinaire Jean-Claude Biver, responsible for reviving the fortunes of some of the most important watchmakers in the world, stunned fans with the introduction of his own brand a few years back, although the reception wasn't exactly universally positive. It was more barrel rides than balrogs, but now he's back to try it again with the Biver Automatique. This is a central second hand away from being the simplest creation Biver could concoct, and it serves as something of a challenge to try and cram as much luxury into a 39mm case as is humanly possible. From the dial side, although the display is simple in its function, its construction is peppered with finishes, textures and layers, each one adding another ring around the middle like some kind of lavish tree trunk. If you count the rings, you can see how many kidneys you'll need to sell to muster the £70,000 asking price. On the back is where all hell breaks loose, furnishing the micro rotor caliber with more finishes than a teenager's sock. There's beveling, brushing, polishing, graining, both straight and circular, and even guilloche, and sometimes all on the same component. It's the more is more approach to decoration, like painting over your wallpapered shiplap with a textured render. If your favourite book is dictionary and your favourite cuisine is all you can eat, it's time to crack open the piggy bank. There's no two ways about it. Jacob & Co is as popular as a hedgehog down the trousers, and with good cause. With many pieces more ostentatious than a gold-plated dodo-down duvet, the brand has earned itself a reputation for being favoured by those with the taste of COVID patient zero. I will allow an exception, the Astronomia revolution. Jacob & Co has discovered my weak spot, my one vulnerability, and that's my love of all things extraterrestrial. I don't mean getting my butt probed, I'm talking about the exploration of space, a recent addition to which is the James Webb Space Telescope. Having yielded some of the most impressive views of our cosmos ever seen, the JWST is in fact one of the most pointless creations ever made by mankind. We'd honestly be fine just banging rocks, grunting at each other and slinging shit. I give you Exhibit A, Love Island, but there's something extra about doing crazy challenging stuff just because. The Jacob & Co Astronomia revolution is such a thing. It's harder to read than the Dead Sea Scrolls and more expensive than the sun, and yet it exists because, fuck it, why not? And check it out. It has a centrally mounted assembly that suspends the hours and minutes subdial, the seconds hand, and the tourbillon regulator, and each one is more batshit than the last. We'll start with the subdial, which is fairly normal, until you realise it not only orbits the dial, but also manages to stay upright the whole time. It's the high-functioning alcoholic of the watch industry. Then there's the second hand, which not only makes one revolution of the dial every 60 seconds, therefore spinning this entire assembly round at breakneck speed, it itself also spins, the ruby tip rotating on its own axis once every 15 seconds. Why? Why not? Then there's the triple axis tourbillon, which rotates on one axis every 60 seconds and the other every 15, with the third axis being its own orbit around the outside of the dial. And every single part of it all has to be finished perfectly, as it's reflected back by the 18 polished hexagons that make up the JWST's primary mirror. Since you asked, it's £500,000. There's been an ongoing battle between luxury giants Piaget, Bulgari and Richard Mille to create the world's thinnest watch, with each routinely knocking 0.05mm, that's the thickness of the piece of paper the record is printed on, from each other seemingly from one month to the next. Well, now there's a new contender joining the fray at just 1.65mm thick, and not one you would have expected. It's the mad Russian, Konstantin Chaykin. When he's not busying himself making watches that look like Santa or the minions from Despicable Me, he's apparently humiliating the big boys by crafting a watch so thin they could serve it up in my high school cafeteria as custard. It joins the ranks of the Rismon collection, Chaykin's series of character-driven pieces filled with charm and personality, which rules out a Kendall Jenner edition. Whilst the Thin King, as this particular Rismon is known, does away with some of the complexity and detail of the others, the time-telling facial features make it very much one of the iconic lineup. How did he achieve such a thing? By taking the principle of using the caseback as the movement baseplate a step further. In the previous record-breaking watches, the jewels needed as bearings for the wheels inside the watch were set into recesses in that caseback, with enough material left over to cover them from the rear. But here that material is removed and the jewels can be seen through the back. What that does for sweat resistance is yet to be seen, but if anyone can do it, Konstantin Chaykin can. The reason for my bold confidence is because of another incredible aspect about this watch. The big challenge with these ultra-thin watches is winding them, and you'll see on the caseback of the Thin King that this too requires a tool to be hand-wound. But it doesn't need to be, because it's an automatic. Yes, the movement of the wearer's wrist is enough to keep it going, so when kept on a winder, it won't need to be set again either. The watch is just a prototype, and there are many more innovations inside yet to explore, but for now at least it takes the record for the thinnest watch ever made. And it's a stark reminder that if you ever face challenges in your own life, the answer isn't just to give up. Pay a mad Russian to deal with it for you instead. See you next time.